You are now listening to About That Business, hosted by Rom Wills. Rom Wills is an entrepreneur and personal coach who has helped people reach their fullest potential personally and professionally. Take it away, Rom.
Welcome to Rom Wills, About That Business, the black business hamster wheel. I'm going to tell you what. Now, I'm always reading different magazines, reading different stuff about business on the internet, particularly black business. And, I got a magazine. It's a mainstream magazine. And it was talking about some black businesses in Atlanta. Atlanta's like the big place and everything. And, it was generally a good article, but there was some stuff that disturbed me. And it was about some black businesses that had sold out to a bigger business, bigger corporations. And I'm like, there's a lot of that. That's why I call it the hamster wheel. A lot of that. You get some people, they'll build a business up from scratch and then sell it to somebody. And I'm just like, that's crazy. When, in a time when black unemployment is higher, I know our president had, bragged about getting black unemployment down, but really it isn't. That's a myth. When they talk about low unemployment numbers, like they say it's 6.6 or 6.7 for African Americans, that's just all that is counting is the number of people who are receiving unemployment benefits, which means they just got laid off of a job and they're still looking for a job and reporting to the unemployment office. The number is actually higher. It might be up to 20% because, in fact, they don't really know what it is. They don't know what it is because once people are out of the system, they don't know what they're doing. Could be doing they could be in System D, the informal economy or something like that, but they don't have any way of tracking them. But we know the unemployment rate is higher. So, when I see some businesses that could actually grow and actually provide jobs for black people, first thing they do is sell out. And I'm going to tell you how it works because I follow this in several industries. I followed it. In fact, it was a big issue with Essence Magazine when they had briefly sold out to a major corporation. I think it was Time Warner. They had some issues when they had a white editor come in there and do some things that they didn't like. And that's one of the things. Okay, one thing you lose some uniqueness when you do that, especially if your business is based on culture. Now, if it was something else, if it was something more general like a bank, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Get the best person. That's cool. You still black owned, but you're just getting the best personnel, which is nothing wrong with that. But when and I'm gonna get into the banks in a second, as I said. You lose something because one, you build up something from scratch, but for a little bit of money, you sell out and it's like, and then your shit become a part of somebody else's stuff. And then what I've noticed is a lot of times that stuff will disappear. Now, y'all know I've been in the publishing industry and, I've told stories before, like I would be on the writer's circuit and you would get, you get some people that got a book out and they'd be so proud of them, like, being picked up by a major publisher. But then, as I said, recently, I was like, well, my stuff has been out nearly 20 years. My books are still out there. I don't see the rest of these people. Even some bigger people that have gotten picked up by major publishers, I don't see their books out anymore. I do not see their books out anymore. And that's one of the things. A lot of times people lose something. See, understand something. And I had a friend who worked. He's an independent publisher, and he talked with a prominent author. I don't know if she wants her name called, but she's known. And she explained to him why he should have stayed, independent, still self-published. And she said, you'll sell that book to this other person. They'll give you a little bit of money, but then that the owners of that publishing company, their great grandchildren will benefit off your work, and your great grandchildren won't have a thing. And that's the thing. That's the thing. And I call this the black business hamster wheel because we will build up some stuff. We will build up some stuff. But then we sell it out and don't realize all it's doing is empowering other communities. When we need jobs, most jobs actually come through within ethnic groups, their own ethnic group. You don't see a lot of Asians complaining about jobs. And I remember years ago in college, I had a girlfriend from Greece. And I remember she said like she needed to stay in certain areas because, of her status at the time, and that they had Greek restaurants where she could easily get a job. Every ethnic group provides for the employment of their group. Whether it's Indians, whether it's Koreans, Vietnamese with the nail shops. Every group provides for its own group. Every group ain't looking for the government job or the government to give them something. And it's a hamster wheel because we will build up these things, then sell it out, and then, people in our jobs eventually get replaced. And I've seen that happen so many times. I've experienced it. I've experienced it working for. There was one company I worked for. They sold out to some, more mainstream company, a white company. But then the principals of that company, a few months after they sold out, they were calling the people who bought them racist. I was just like, what? And you sold out to them for pennies. Now you had a great thing here, but because you got greedy for a little bit of money, this is gone. This could have still been here. Because one thing, if people buy you and they get you, if a person buys something, they already got a plan. They'll stick with who you got for a little while. But eventually they're going to replace everything. And it's a hamster wheel. Now I said I was going to get into banks. That's a powerful thing right there. Now banks are a little bit more complicated because you still got to support the banks. But, I read something the other day, like in the 80s, there were like about 54 black-owned banks. Now there's 19. Yet, if you go through most black neighborhoods, you don't see a bank. You see some check cash in place, or some type of payday loan place, some place that is basically milking the ghetto. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. If in the 80s we had 54 banks, now it should be minimum 100, maybe 200 banks by now. 200 black-owned banks is separate entities right now, and they could have branches right where they are needed, right in the hood, which in turn empowers black businesses. Because what we doing? We complain about redlining, and that redlining goes in other areas. I'm gonna just share this story. I don't have a regular dental insurance. I use like a discount plan. And I remember I just changed it slightly for my dentist. And it's like I actually got a better deal. And I was like, well, I was struck when the person I was dealing with, the customer service person, said, what's your zip code? I told them the zip code. And they said, and she just straight up said, it's like the prices depend on the zip code. That's redlining. That is redlining right there. So you getting all this stuff. And, a very simple black business, 2 black businesses, not just banks, but we're down to 2 black-owned insurance companies, because we're selling out. And that's half the equation. And most of these businesses, that's the bad part, though. Like the other equation is just not supporting them, but that's another video. But that's the bad part of the scenario. That's the bad part. We actually build the stuff. We're building the stuff and we selling it out. I found out there was a TV network that sold to a larger group. I'm like, what? I'm like, why don't you just hold on to it? And then you get some people justified for what? How much money do you need? At some point, yeah, you want to make money and everything, but at some point, you got to have a political vision too and say, I'm going to do it. Like when John Johnson, the publisher of Ebony Magazine, was really doing his thing, one thing I admired about him, he never took his business public. He never got on the stock market or anything. He kept it private because he said he didn't want to. And people were offering him money for it. Shoot, Ebony was the bomb. Ebony magazine was the bomb. It was the magazine you had to have in the black community. You know, shoot, for a long time he was a top black business. But he understood it wasn't just about the money. He probably could have been a billionaire if he had sold out. But then he would have lost control. And really, what happened when Ebony, when he died, and Ebony came under white control. You know, it changed up. Now, I don't know if they completed, but I think Ebony's about gone now. I got to check that. I know they were having some trouble. So, you know, and that's the hamster wheel. We get on that wheel, we build up, but we just keep going. Now we getting back to a position where the businesses are going down. We don't have the businesses. Because despite propaganda, black businesses aren't building up the way people think they are. So, anyway, that's all I got. As I said, I'm doing more commentary on here. I want y'all to think about what I'm saying. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace and blessings.